Hey everybody, it is Thursday. Great to see you here today. My name is Andy Ferguson. Next to me is Pastor Jeff Waterman.
Yay.
Hey there.
Good afternoon, morning. I guess it's morning, everybody.
Yeah, we won't give away all of our secrets of when we're doing this recording. But yeah, here we are. It is our episode 21.
21. Good
Yeah.
old 21. We should have a party or something. Don't you party when you're 21 or something?
Oh yeah, that's right, for sure. Well, I've got my drink right here. It is
I got my
ginger,
water.
peach, and turmeric.
Ooh, sounds yummy.
So happy 21 to you too. Cheers. All right. And here we are. This is the Overflow podcast as we are overflowing from our Sunday services.
Yeah.
And we've got a question this week, Jeff.
All right.
Yeah. How
Sounds
awesome
great.
is that? So this previous Sunday, we had introduced our new Psalm Summer series. However, the question is about a couple sermons just before that.
Well, it is. However, I think this comes about because when we were talking about the people that wrote the Psalms, I
Yeah.
referenced the sons of
That's true.
Korah,
Yes.
which is what this question is about. And when we were talking about that section, we said sometimes we forget that the characters of the Bible, Solomon, David, Moses, we forget that they're people just like us, that
Yeah.
they have feelings just like us. They have all the emotions that we have. They have days where they feel like, yeah, I'm on top of the world. Everything's fantastic. Then they have days where they feel like the world's on top of them and nothing goes well. And so we were just talking about the different people that contributed to the Psalms that we're aware of. We talked about a little bit about David and Solomon and Moses, but then I referenced the sons of Korah, which we also talked about in our Jude series.
That's right.
So
That's right.
I was just made reference to the fact that imagine being a son or an offspring or a descendant of Korah. And then so the question came into
Yeah, and the question is simply, could you educate us on who is Korah and just fill us in a little more deeply, I suppose, or intrinsically, what is going on with Korah? Who is Korah and who are the sons of Korah? Who are the people that follow this guy? What is Korah's rebellion? How does that tie into the timeline?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot there. And honestly, when you start reading the account, there's a lot of scratching. I mean, I'm scratching my head going, okay, I don't know that I understand everything. So might have to keep this a little bit high level, but at least we'll introduce who Korah is.
Sure, yeah.
When we were in Jude, we were we kind of talked about it a little bit, and Korah was referenced there. And what we asked is, are we going to decide? Are we going to choose the death of Korah or the life of Christ?
Right.
And we said that in Korah's situation, death was a punishment. It was a judgment.
Yeah.
But in Christ, death is really not that. It's a new beginning. It's a reward, right? We get brought into a banquet when we either die and head into heaven, or we get taken up through the rapture, whatever. How that all works out, we don't know. We'll know when we get there. But our death is not. There is no condemnation for those who are in Christ. So it's not a judgment, but it's a reward that we get to enter into the new heavens and the new
Thank
earth,
God.
right?
Yeah.
So are we going to choose the death of Korah, or are we going to choose the life of Christ? And that comes up because Jude did that a lot. He would reference these stories from the Old Testament, assuming we would know.
Right. 2,000 years later, it's
I don't know who's Korah.
it's a long time ago. Yeah.
So-
They knew. Yeah.
So it behooves us to go back, and we read about Korah in the book of Numbers, verse
Specifically
16.
Numbers 16.
And so we can zip over there real quick. And
Yeah.
so you're pretty up on the context. So what's going on here?
Sure. So the Israelites are going through the wilderness, right? They have left Egypt, and they've been gifted many things as they have left, okay? So they're all doing well. All of a sudden, they get into Mount Sinai, right? While Aaron and the whole team, then they create the golden calf while Moses is up getting all the new laws for what they're doing. They come back down. They're going through the whole wilderness, and eventually they reach this point where they send the spies out to the promised land, okay? So a lot has a lot of time has passed. A lot of months and months, perhaps even years and years have passed. But anyways, they're out there and they're about to go into the promised land. The spies go out there, 12 spies, 10 return back saying, yikes, the sons of Anak are there, right? The sons of the Nephilim and whatnot. So this is scary, but they're bringing back with 2 people carrying poles of huge grapes, and it takes many people to carry. So this is a land that is very fruitful, very abundant, the land flowing with milk and honey. This is God's promised land. He has promised this to his people to enter into. However, the people that go there, 10 out of the 12 return back with that very scary review results saying, we can't go over there. We're like grasshoppers to them. We're going to get smushed. And the thing is, Moses is thinking, but if God is with us, we're totally fine. You got nothing to worry about. The 2 that did return that were faithful people, right? Righteous people. Was it Caleb?
Caleb and Joshua.
Yep. So they were actually the ones allowed to actually go into the promised land, whereas everybody else gets the new news. Hey, by the way, anybody 20 years of age or older, you're all going to die in this desert, in the wilderness. And by the way, here are a lot of new rules and laws for you guys about the Sabbath and everything else along this. And so more time has passed. We're not sure how much time between chapters 13, 14, 15, and 16. 16 is Korah's rebellion. But basically, with all of these new laws and things, well, on a Sabbath day, the camp, they find somebody out collecting sticks. He wants to make a fire. I don't know what he's doing, collecting sticks, but it's on the Sabbath. And so they return him back into the camp and they bring him to Moses. They chain him up because they don't know what to do with him yet. That law hasn't been created yet. What do we do with this guy? Moses responds, well, we're going to stone him to death. So set him outside the camp. Everybody in the camp grab a stone and they all killed him right there. Yikes. And so this is after all these new laws, all these new burdens, so to speak. And they're like, man, so they're starting to talk within themselves. Wasn't life a little bit easier? Even though we were slaves, wasn't it easier in Egypt? We had leeks, we had garlic, we had onion, we had delicious melons, they even say. We had all sorts of great food. We're out here and we're eating manna every single day, which was like coriander seed. It seems pretty rough, but they're pounding the dough. They're trying to make whatever they can with this, and they're not happy. They're all grumbling. They're malcontent, right? As we read in the end of Jude.
Grumble.
Exactly. And so 250 of these people, so we're thinking, okay, just about the entire congregation of the well is like, this isn't going well for us. Things were better for us back in Egypt. And so they have a leader. His name is Korah. Now, these people, they're all the Levites, the Levitical tribe. Okay, so their purpose, the job, the vocation that God gave them, their mission was to serve in the temple, to work in the tabernacle, to take care of God's things, and to be in the presence of God. So they go to Moses and Aaron, and they're like, wait a minute, we're all holy and we're working in the temple. So why is it that you two are able to make all of these rules for us? How come we have to follow you guys and aren't we fine? We're like all this stuff. And Moses is saying, when you're doing this, he bowed down before them, by the way, as a sign of humility, because he was their leader, right? But he bows down, puts his face to the ground, and then he responds, you guys aren't going against you guys aren't going against me by saying these things, my authority by saying these things. You're actually going against the authority that God has appointed by saying these things. Right. So you're not against me, you're going against God. Yikes. And he says, let's sleep on this, we'll pray about it, and then tomorrow we're going to come back, and I'll tell you what, if you guys are correct, Korah and your people, if you're correct, then you're going to live a long and normal life, and you're going to die like a normal person in your old age. But if I'm on the right side here, then the earth is going to open up and swallow you and your families whole, all of your belongings and everything. And so, the next morning comes, and they have their assembly. They bring all of their incense and things like that. And that's pretty much what happens. They go, okay, guys, God actually speaks once more, and he says, Moses, Aaron, tell the entire encampment here, separate yourselves from the tents of Korah and his people, because I'm going to do a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And literally, when Moses finished speaking his words, the ground opened up and swallowed all of those people and closed up. So that was Korah and his tent and his belongings. And then the people with the incense, they were all burst into flames and perished as well. So anybody who was literally going against God in that situation, trying to go against the authority that God had instituted, they were killed
Right.
on the
Yeah.
spot.
A pretty crazy example, and you reference these new laws, and
Yeah.
it's interesting because when Moses, after they leave Pharaoh, after they get out of Egypt, he goes up to Mount Sinai and he gets all the laws. And it's always funny when people want to make new laws, because the question becomes, well, if you're going to make a new law, someone's got to enforce it when someone breaks the law, right? The law only has teeth if there's some enforcement. I don't know if this is a great example or not, but I was part of a HOA board, homeowners association, and they wanted to make all these different rules. And I said, great. I was on the board. I said, I think these rules are great, but who's going to enforce them?
Yeah.
Do you want to be the person enforcing these rules? Because now you're going to be an enemy of all your neighbors. And so it's interesting, Moses comes down with the law, and God had said, keep the Sabbath holy. I am your God. You'll be my people, and I will be your God, and I will dwell with you. Obey my commands, follow me, and all of those things. And every time they have a chance to do just that, they don't. Right? They have a chance to go into the promised land, but they don't. They have a chance to keep the Sabbath holy, but they don't.
Right.
So at some point, God's got to show them and show us he's kind of serious about this, right? That this isn't just a hope, like, hey, I hope you would do this. No, this is serious. And that's how we know that there's a need for sacrifice for the payment of our sin, because that's what the law shows us. The law shows us that need. So God is in essence saying, here's the laws to live with me. If you disobey, understand I'm serious.
Right.
So, it seems really, to us, it seems really extreme.
Yeah.
But, we're told the wages of sin is death.
Yep.
And had an interesting conversation with my dad the other day. We were driving around. We were talking about sin, and what is sin? And we came back to the idea that we often think of sin as behavior. Like, we think that God's upset that this guy was picking up sticks, right?
Yeah.
And we then go, what's the big deal? He was picking up sticks. But that's not the sin. The picking up sticks is the outsource of sin, which is, well, who's going to be God?
Yep. The posture of the heart.
Right? So are you serving the flesh, as Paul says, or are you serving the Spirit? Are you serving God? Which one are you serving? And from Genesis 3 on, that's been the battle. Who's going to be God? And so by saying, well, I don't have to do the Sabbath stuff, I don't have to keep it holy, then I'm serving self. I'm not serving God. I'm not trusting God. For Korah to come in and say, hey, why do you get to make all these rules? And Moses goes, I didn't make the rules. I'm enforcing the rules.
Yes.
because during that the Sabbath breaker is executed, and the Lord said to Moses, the man shall be put to death.
Yeah.
I mean, Moses here is speaking, this is what God told me, right? This is what the problem with these rules is, someone's got to enforce them.
Yep.
And they don't Korah didn't like the enforcement of the rules. He didn't like the extra burden on him. And then who are you, Moses, who makes you judge over all these people? Why do you get to be the prince?
Yep. And they're so human, though, because we see that a lot in our current lives. But even Moses was listening to the crying of his people at the front of their tents. Every single night they're crying, we want meat, we want food, this is not good, we're thirsty, da-da-da. And he's like, I don't like this. I don't want to be the leader of this. He is actually saying, God, please, I would rather die. Take me from this earth. This is not good. So he wasn't vying to be leader over these people. He was appointed this position. And even at the very beginning, he didn't want to do it either.
No, he didn't. He was kind of arguing with the bush, right? Like, find someone else.
Yeah.
So maybe he knew what was coming a little bit, and so did God, right? So when it looks at Korah, it's what I just look back at that time and think, what a difficult time to be a leader. You're leading these people out. You think you're going into this promised land, and then the people say, no, we're not going. And then you're left to have to then, in the midst of the wilderness, right? It's not like they can go, all right, hey, we're going to go to this next town and we're going to buy the supplies that we need from Walmart or wherever. No, they have to live off of what's provided in the wilderness. And this isn't, a few hundred people. This is a couple million people trudging through the wilderness for 40 years.
Right, exactly. 600,000 men alone, so that's not accounting the women and the children. And Moses is out there like, where are we going to get the food to feed all these people? Are you going to empty the entire ocean of fish for these people? Right. It was crazy, right? But then, of course, what does God do? He brings in millions upon millions of quail, right? And it's they surround and fall into the encampment, as well as a day's journey on either sides of the encampment. And there was it 2 cubits tall, so this is 3 feet maybe tall, or like the depth of quail that are available for them all to eat. That's crazy.
Yeah, I think we often lose sight of just what it would. I've had quail. Quail are not real big.
No.
Right? I mean, I could probably eat 2 of them. So you figure about how many millions of quail is it going to take to feed all of these folks, right? And then try to catch a quail. I mean,
maybe worse than a chicken. Right?
It's not an easy task, right? So now you not only do you got to have this many, but you've got to have them all be able to get caught and just kind of sit there and go, okay, we're your food.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, I think, man, eating manna and quail sounds awesome. For 40 years, I'd be like,
yeah. I mean, we get chicken. We try to do that meal planning, right? Chicken and broccoli or something every day for a week. You're like, I don't want chicken and broccoli after a week.
Right.
Imagine if you had 40 years. That's
40
crazy.
years every day, same stuff. So I could see why people are grumbling. I could see why they're going to blame Moses, because they don't see God. They see the pillar of smoke and fire and all that kind of stuff, but they don't really see that God's there. So God's got to make himself abundantly clear to these people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a lot of what's happening. Hey, I'm serious about this. Let me show you how serious I am. You have a choice in life to follow humanity or follow me.
Right.
What are you going to do? If you follow humanity, as we said in Jude, that death will be judgment. Korah's death was judgment. It was judgment on Korah and his rebellion, not because he asked questions, but because he rose up against the person that God had put in place, and he was compromising God's message. Now, as it relates to Psalms, imagine being the great grandson of Korah. I remember, I like movies. I remember the movie Hitch with Will Smith, and it was kind of fun. You remember that movie?
Yep.
And he wants to impress the girl, right? So he takes her to Ellis Island and has the book open to her great grandfather or something that came over, and he was the butcher of Kaziz. And Will Smith thought he was actually a butcher, but he was a serial killer, and he was on the run, and so that's a black mark that the family's trying to forget about, right? Because it's this black mark on their family. Could you imagine being a son of Korah? Like, oh, you come from that guy.
Right. Not
I mean,
good.
that would be hard, right? That would.
Yeah, generational curse, basically.
Right.
That's
over
tough.
and over.
That's tough to get over that. Like, I'm not my great grandfather. This is who I am.
Right.
Man, there's a couple other wild things that happen within this particular section of scripture in this Numbers 13, 14, 15, 16 section, right? So those spies return. And the thing that's funny is, like, they had decided as a group, look, we don't want to go over there because it's really scary for us.
Right.
But as soon as they were given the punishment of you're all going to die in the wilderness and you're going to be here for another 40 years, they go, oh, wait, no, we're actually going to go over there. And then they do, and they all get slaughtered.
Right.
And God's like, I was with you that first time, and this is the rule, and now you're going against me again, but in a different way. It's like, it doesn't work that way. It kind of teaches us to be obedient the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are we hearing? And that's the hard part. The hard part is, we can use phrases like, are we hearing from God, and are we responding? Right.
Right.
The question though is this really what God's telling us, or is this just what I want?
Yeah, that's hard.
And if it's just what I want, then that's going to be disastrous.
Right.
But if it's what God's calling me, then it'll work out.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't respond to God and follow, at the least I miss out on the blessing, right? These people, by not going in the promised land, at the least they did is they lived out their life in the wilderness and they missed out on the blessing. But then they start compounding one bad decision with another bad decision with another bad decision. Oh, we're going to go in now. All right, yeah, God, well, you got wiped out. Oh, we're going to just do what we want to do. So they start combining all of these bad decisions, and it creates a snowball effect.
Right.
Where if we said, hey, you know what, we made a bad decision. We're not going to go in there. But you know what? We're going to prep the next generation so that when they have that choice, they can go in and they can follow boldly.
That's a great church on mission mentality, that it's never about just yourself, but it's that each one teach one kind of thing, you know? So we're raising up a church, we're raising up the people, and well, we see it. That's how God works generationally. It's never about generally it isn't about that first person, but it's about the lineage and what comes after that.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I think we in the U.S. don't value the older generations like other cultures do. And sometimes it's because, well, you don't know what current culture's like, or, man, I've seen how you lived your life and you didn't live a perfect life, so why would I want to follow you, or why would I want to listen to you? But if you step back a minute, where you learn the most is in your failures. So if someone has lived a life and they can chart out their failures, maybe they've learned a lot.
Yes.
And maybe there's some things that we could, if we would just sit back and listen to them or glean from them, we can hear insight that will help us make better decisions, follow God closely, so that as it says, Psalm 1, you'll be blessed. Blessed is the man who meditates on his instruction and his direction day and night. Part of that instruction does come through the experience of other people as they've learned to follow God and how that works out. So.
Absolutely. I love that tie back into this previous Sunday's sermon, which was Psalm 1 and 2. It was an introduction to the Psalms. We didn't actually go through the entirety of those Psalms, which we will be doing that in a number of weeks in the future here. But yes, blessed is the person who meditates on the word day and night. And that meditation, well, you use the word ashrei, right? That's is that the Hebrew or the Greek?
Yeah, that's blessed. Yeah. Ashrei.
So the deep abiding joy and contentment in all situations. So that blessedness, you could even feel that down in a dungeon, chained up to a wall, right? When you feel joy and contentment. So that's the result of a life lived in meditation on God, praying continuously, obeying what He says.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm looking forward to the summer because I feel like these Psalms are going to help us put language to some of the feelings we have as we look at different people that are struggling through the same stuff we do: fear, doubt, shame, confusion.
Right.
All of those things should come out through the Psalms.
Excellent. We're looking forward to it. We'll see you guys this coming up Sunday. 10 o'clock in the morning is our upcoming service, and it'll be the 8th of June.
June 8th, yes.
June 8th, yeah.
And
Psalm 66, I believe it is.
It is. Psalm 66.
Yeah. So let's dive into that together.
A voice for fear.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah. There you go.
See you guys then. Thanks so much for listening.
Have a great day.